Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Director Watch, an AwardsWatch podcast that attempts to get inside the mind of cinema's greatest auteurs, explore what drives them. Maybe we go on a few unrelated tangents along the way. I'm Ryan McQuade, the executive editor here at AwardsWatch, and joining me, as always, is my business partner, Jay Ledbetter.
Ryan, we covered the first piece of bread of the sandwich that is the Three Colors trilogy.
Is that the bottom layer or the top layer?
That was the bottom piece of bread. Gravitationally, you got to put the bottom piece first. Now we're getting to the meat. Three Colors white. Can't wait. So excited. Weird movie. Let's do it.
What kind of meat in this sandwich would Three Colors white represent?
For me, it would be the meat I least expected. So, like kangaroo. It's like, come on. It's like kangaroo meat.
Are you fucking kidding me? Kangaroo meat? Like not even like a real lunch meat you put out?
You can eat kangaroo.
Do you see that selling that at the store?
No, but that's how unexpected it was.
Jesus Christ. Give me a real answer. Kangaroo.
Did you know that they have open season on kangaroo?
What are you talking about?
In Australia.
So like you can just kill a kangaroo whenever you want?
Deer. Yeah.
What do they do like with the meat? Is it like jerky or like, is it like,
I think it's like, I think they treat it similar to like how we treat venison.
Oh,
where it's not a delicacy, but it's.
Why didn't you just say venison for Christ's sake?
Because venison is something that I expect.
Where the hell in the United States are we going to get kangaroo?
It's a good question. That's how unexpected the tone and ideas of this movie were to me.
I thought you were going to say like a whitefish sandwich.
No, that's
boring. Well, I mean, it's unexpected. I wouldn't assume. What do you like on your sandwich? What's like your go-to sandwich meat?
Kangaroo.
Then it's not expected. Then you son of a bitch. God damn it! All right,
I'm just
real off toys. What's your favorite sandwich?
Boring when it comes to sandwich meats. I mean, give me some.
Want some ham?
Some ham.
You want some turkey?
I love some turkey. If I'm going for pure
roast
flavor,
beef?
I'm probably going ham. Roast beef is a nice, rare delicacy. I love a nice roast beef.
Do you like a pastrami, a corned beef?
Not into pastrami and corned beef.
Really? You're not into that? The salted meets like that? Do you like an Italian sandwich?
Harsh.
Do you like a salami?
No, I don't really like an Italian much.
Prosciutto, none of that?
I like prosciutto.
Okay.
The texture of prosciutto I quite enjoy.
What is it about those other meats that you don't like?
They're very harsh. It is that, I think, salted nature.
The salted nature of it? Okay. Well, but pork you can do. Ham you can eat. Do you like a Cuban?
Some ham. Oh, I love a Cuban.
I was going to say, do you like a Cuban sandwich?
I love a Cuban sandwich.
Do you like a club?
Yeah, club's fine.
Like a BLT? Do you like a BLT?
BLT's fine.
I'm just trying to peel back the layers of our friendship.
There's so many layers to peel back.
Yeah. You're not even going to ask me?
Nah.
Okay. Well, that's fair. All right. And I would agree. Kangaroo is very surprising, just like this movie is very surprising. How you been, buddy? You been good?
I've been great, man.
We've been dominating the podcast feed.
Yeah, we this is our feed now.
This
I'm our captain now. Yeah, you're always here. I'm taking over.
Jay's like playing this flag. He's like, I'm going to be on the main show. You try to be on back-to-back weeks the main show and try to be on Director Watch.
We'll see.
Like you could, it's like it's your job or something.
This might be like a barometer of how my marriage is going. The more I'm on, the worse it's going.
She watched this one with you? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I think the next series, she's going to watch every film with you.
Oh, yeah. We've already started on that one. Oh, yeah.
My wife watched this one with me and she said, what the hell is this? And
that is a fair reaction to this particular film.
She watched Blue with me.
That movie is what I expected. This movie, it's just a fascinating movie.
But isn't that like great when you don't know what to expect? Like when was the last time you got surprised by a movie?
Oh man.
Was it the Ghostbusters movie?
I'm trying to think of the stupidest answer I can give.
Is it the Hellboy movie from many years ago?
Have you seen the new Hellboy movie?
No. Oh my God. I was going to ask you about this. So it's like, it's not even the Harbor.
I think
it's not Del Toro. It's like straight to video.
One. I think it's on Paramount Plus or something.
It looks horrendous.
Sounds good.
I think you want to tell the listeners out there what you coined the David Harbour Hellboy as?
Yeah, the David Harbour Hellboy, which of course no one has thought about since it came out, however
2019
many years ago.
2019. Yeah.
I called it a dumpster Whopper, which just means like it is 3 a.m. on a just a night out on the town. You're zonked out of your mind, and you just find this beautiful, uneaten Whopper in a dumpster, and it is exactly what you needed in that moment, and it gives you the perfect sustenance. And that's what Hellboy, whatever that one was called, was it just called Hellboy?
Yeah, I think it was just called Hellboy. It
Yeah,
didn't
that's
have
what
like
that
a.
movie was for me at the time. It's exactly what I needed.
Have you watched it since?
Beautiful, beautiful garbage. I will never watch that movie again.
You don't
It
want to
will
show that to the kid?
remain, it will remain a wonderful object in my memory.
I mean, you don't want to show it to the kid, pass it down, share a dumpster whopper with your son one
You know
day.
what? Maybe I'll share a dumpster whopper with my kid.
Do you have other films that fit the dumpster whopper description, Jay?
See, I am truly scared. I bet that movie's absolutely terrible. Uh, the Hellboy dumpster whopper. I'm sure there are. I'm not thinking of them right off the top of my head. But like, I mean, it's it is a backhanded compliment to say because I think about, we just talked about Denzel, like Ricochet. That's a garbage movie.
But that's a
But
that,
but
but
it's actually like
so
good
fun.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, like that movie's that movie's insane.
Movie's absolutely out of its mind.
But yet, like we didn't even talk about when we did the top five Denzels. We didn't talk about like the the gladiator fight with the Aryan Brotherhood. Is not even like it's one of the five things that is the craziest thing in the movie. Like, was it Ice Cube is in it? No, Ice T.
Ice T.
Sorry. And Ice T basically creates like a Home Alone style
Hmm.
explosion to get Denzel to fake his own death or something because he knew Denzel from the past.
It's all
And
very straightforward.
and then like there's a scene where Lithgow starts getting his revenge on him where he drugs him with heroin and then forces a sex worker to have sex with him and he videotapes it and sends it to like his boss and his wife and it's a really vicious kind of movie when you really think about it. Like it's
Yeah.
my favorite thing though in that movie in Ricochet. Now that we're starting this episode on a really high note, is when Lithgow kills like his partner, right, or like his like Washington's like friend or whatever. It's in the rain, right, and
Hmm.
the way Lithgow just tosses the gun so gleefully, and Washington catches it, and he goes, and then Washington's like, "Oh no, I got fingerprints on the gun." I'm like, "It's a torrential downpour. Like, there's no way a print's getting picked off of that. Like,
You don't know that.
it's so silly." And then they're like on a jungle gym esque. I feel like American Gladiators was like a real big inspiration for that movie because they're like, you know what I mean? They're like climbing on this
At the
jungle.
very end, when they're, yeah, climbing up the tower, that's
I was like, Spider Man?
it's peak,
Yeah,
peak
it's
cinema.
great stuff. You know what else is peak cinema? The Three Colors trilogy.
Yeah,
It's
very
a.
different films,
I don't know. What do you think Kieślowski would have done with Ricochet?
but it would have been interesting.
It would have
Would have been
been
about the perils of
the
post
system.
Cold War Poland.
Exactly. Three Colors White. Jay, we talked about Blue last week. Really great discussion. Really great film.
Yes.
So I'm curious now for the third one here. I mean, there's no filler. We're just going straight into the next film because
Yep.
these all came back to back to back.
Hmm.
Blue, white, and then next week, is it red? I think it is.
Hmm.
Um, what did you think of Three Colors White, buddy?
Three Colors White. As I've said, it was totally not what I expected it to be. This movie is so fascinating. I don't know that I particularly care for it a tremendous amount right now. I respect the hell out of it. And it is a movie I'm more interested to watch again than Blue because I think this movie cannot be taken literally at all. This is pure allegory. It is
Mm.
all about the relationship with the Eastern Bloc right after the dissolution of the USSR to the Western world. And when you view it through that allegorical lens and you consider the fact that the West is represented by the kind of vindictive woman in this situation who is mistreating this impotent man, in this scenario representing, in my opinion, sort of the recovering formerly Soviet countries of Europe, your metaphors start getting a little messy and potentially a little misogynistic. But when you consider kind of what this movie is striving for through that lens, it is really fascinating. It is a revenge story about a group of nations that have been disillusioned from a certain part of the capitalistic society being asked to re-engage with that side of themselves, which they are fully not familiar with, and how this new world will only come to respect them if they are corrupted by the worst capitalistic tendencies, and then how that ends up creating its own version of some sort of new Cold War where there is this love and hate intertwined that is going to create complications for the rest of these people's lives and by proxy the entire world. So it's really going for a lot, in my opinion, and I don't know how else you can even think about this movie because it is so surreal to a certain extent. It's a crazy movie that I think really works in some ways and kind of doesn't in others, but is unendingly fascinating.
Well, Jay, look at look at you with the smarts coming in here, finding
Yeah.
the allegories inside a movie like this. Um, I really like this movie. I agree with you. I think it's probably a little bit of a step down in terms of, or I'm probably not going to rewatch it as much as I would Blue or when we talk about Red next week. But it is an equally fascinating film
I think
to
I would
sort of break
watch
down.
it again. I think I would watch it again first.
Yeah, but it's
This movie is
oh, you
crazy.
think you would watch this one first?
Just because I think there's
So
because
much
I
going on.
don't know how I feel about it. I
That's
think
fair.
it's such a crazy swing.
So I think it is. Um, you know, Roger Ebert
Yeah.
called this a big anti-comedy. He thinks that
Yeah. He said the other one was an anti-tragedy. This is an
it's anti,
anti-comedy.
and the
The other
next
was an
one's an
anti-romance.
anti-romance. Yeah,
Yeah.
and everything. I agree with that, and I do agree with it. I feel like this is it's an anti-comedy, but it almost feels like a anti-revenge film in a way
It's
too.
so European. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I mean it is a movie about, like, I think, if you just take it on its literal sense, it is like this couple. It's like this silly relationship between this couple, that and sex and politics and everything that goes with it. But if you really want to break it down, like you're breaking it down, Jay, it is about the systemic, uh, sort of climb of money and power and what that drives people and how they're attracted to one another and what that does in sort of social status and what then, you know, being in a certain level of class then allows you the ability of being able to do things that you wouldn't necessarily have if you didn't have that. And we see that through Carol throughout the film where, when we first meet him, he isn't at, he's at the lowest of lows. Like, she has all the power.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, and it is a fascinating, dynamic that we're going to talk about between Dominique and Carol and these two who the film kind of wants to present it as this chess match between the two of them, but it really feels like, if you want to just take it away from two individuals, it feels like, um, this European high class, um, society stripping away from someone that's come over to make a name for themselves, leaving them penniless to return home to their homeland, to make a name for themselves, to come back to sort of reap revenge in a very comedic way.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see him at the end of the film with the sort of, what is it, like it's like the comb or the like the musical instrument that he uses in
His
the
little
subway.
comb kazoo thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
whatever it is.
comb kazoo thing. He's almost playing with it like he's a villain, right? You know what I mean? And ultimately, the end of this film, when you see her in the prison, it's a little bit like now the roles are reversed, and I think a lot about it in terms of um, just about power dynamics, both within these countries, but then also within these people. It's a very fascinating, weird, quirky little film too, and just how his rise back to certain power and gaining money and what he does with it. And the minute he has success, it doesn't feel like time has lapsed at all. And how hard it was for him, but then how also the sort of lessons he learns along the way. I think there's a third character in this movie, Jay. Um, um, that's the Miklos,
Hmm.
that is really the most fascinating character in the film. Sort of how he intersects between knowing Carol and sort of an act of kindness and what they learn along the way. Like the middle of this film, in between the sort of his fall and then his rise and then the plan to get back at her, there's some real beauty still in there, and that's where there's these moments of where it does feel like it connects back to Blue in a lot of ways, and then when we talk about Red, it's going to connect back there, and it's within that sort of acceptance of friendship and human connection in a way that those two people need from one another. So I do find it really fascinating, Jay. I find it to be on the surface the most probably like you could talk about it as the most simplistic film in the trilogy, but yet there's still a lot of things to dive deeply into it that you described and that I've attempted to describe, that make it very fascinating, and it's also just really funny. Like there, and it
Hmm.
plays off like like a French comedy by the end too, and a French tragedy, and you could play it off as humor, or you could also look at it as an extremely tragic way of connecting with people, and how were there any lessons really learned by the end. Yeah, I think it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's definitely good. I mean, a ton to unpack. If you do look at it, so you did seem to look at it more through sort of a personal, interpersonal perspective, not through this kind of geopolitical lens, which is the only way that I could think to
Well, I
look at
think
it
that
through.
but isn't it kind of both? I mean, like it's kind of through
It
the
is, but if
lens.
you look at anyone's actions in this movie, they are absolutely nonsensical.
Well,
Like
yeah,
time, to your point, time doesn't make sense.
no,
Space doesn't make sense in this movie. It's all
but they
beyond
are,
farce.
yeah. I mean, but they're very I think they're just very selfish people.
Definitely, yes.
And that, you know,
The fact that they even
uh,
get married in the first place, it's
place.
like they get married because that's convenient to the allegory. I mean, that's to me, that's the reason they get married. Like, there's no backstory,
Yeah,
there's no
it's like a one night.
interiority.
It's like a one night stand that's gone to this, and that there's
It's
some sort of
basically a
attraction.
Vegas
Or
wedding.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a Vegas wedding done in a very elegant way, right? Because
With
it
somebody
looks
who doesn't even speak the language.
exactly. It almost feels like a green card marriage. Like you're what you're trying to say there too. Like it's a marriage for
Hmm.
convenience. But then those can blossom into something more. But then yeah, I mean it. But through the personal, there lies the larger issues, Jay, which is this that um, if a if a poorer country creates an allyship with a geopolitical power, and then that geopolitical power builds and takes all the resources from that small place. Well, there's nothing else that they really could have done other than go back to square one within their own country and try to rebuild it,
Hmm.
and potentially get to hopefully a place where they can be on a level playing field, and then enact revenge in a way that is very harmful and dangerous to the overall relationship of them, but then also just as also silly politics as well the way too.
Yeah.
And I think
Well,
that
now
that's
you're
what
just talking about how World War II started.
I did. I mean, and then it's the destruction of their relationship and their marriage and everything, but or their attraction, but then there's some weird um and very sexual thing that then Dominique has at the end where she's just like, I respect now the hell out of you.
That's all that she wants.
You know,
She's turned on by respecting him. And at the
yeah.
end of the movie, that's all that happens is that he's always been in love with her and she finally respects him. And that's what it
But
takes
it
for
took
her
him
to
to
be
be
attracted to him.
the most vile he has ever
But then
been.
the question is, why was
You
she
know,
attracted to him in the first place? Why did they get married?
do you have a theory?
No, I truly do not know, other
I
than the
think
fact that that's the story they wanted to tell. And so they just started there.
I think that's probably it might be that. I think there's also just, you know, some people get married out of convenience. They get married because they're lonely. They get married because they do see something in them, but it weirdly could take going to these extremes in order for them to tap into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what the film kind of talks about in a way is that like, yes, he had to get all the way and figure this all out, but in a way, she's by the end when she's just like telling him how much she wants to marry him again because she's attracted to him again because he has because she wants him to be in this position of power that she is in. He's broken by the end. I don't think he wants to be back with her. I think that I don't know how you take his tears at the end. I think he's like, I had to get to this point in order for you to want me.
No, I take it as full corruption.
Yeah.
I take it as Michael Corleone
Oh,
closing the door.
Oh, you think so? You
Yep.
think that like no, I agree. I was
Allegorically, I think that's
no, I don't think
going.
he wants to be back with her. I think he's just like
No, I think he does want to go back with her.
oh, you think he does? Yeah. Oh, so you think
like,
he's full
I'm
on
all
like
in on this world of being just a garbage human being.
oh, okay.
Like the movie suggests, in my opinion, she is, which I think is the biggest problem with the movie is that they gave her no sense of character.
No. Well, she's one note throughout the whole.
She is a metaphor.
She's one flavor. She's one flavor. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's poisonous fruit.
Yes.
Throughout the entireness. Yeah. And I mean, but Delpy's great.
She's awesome.
Providing that. Yeah. And
what's your relationship with Julie Delpy?
What's my relationship with Julie Delpy? I mean, I know Julie Delpy. I think like most American audiences know Julie Delpy. They're either this film or through the Before trilogy, right? Mm. Which
I know her from very little else.
And I think she's a very good actress. I mean, she like loves to stick her foot in her mouth because she's French. But I saw some panel one time where I don't want to misquote the terrible quote she said, but I think she said it was harder. Sometimes she wished she was an African American more than she was a woman because it's easier and to be African American than it is to be a woman.
It sounds like a pretty cool thing to say.
And I remember her saying that, and I was just like, oh, gonna move past this post because that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. But I mean, she's part of this trilogy and the Before trilogy, which is this.
The Befores those
are monumental films for me growing up and and really sort of right around in college discovering those. And I mean, they're the starter pack for every film bro that wants to, that thinks they have an opinion on things. But also I find those to be those are really fascinating films because I think that's where she kind of opened up more as a writer, and now she's a director and everything. But her writing those films with Ethan Hawke and Linklater, that's where I know her to be, and I know that those characters are a lot more fleshed out. I mean, Celine is, I don't think she's like a manic pixie dream girl or like this sort of dream. I think that she's a very fledged out character, and I think that that's a lot to do with her bringing her personal baggage into that character, and Hawke bringing his personal baggage into Jesse and making those films what it is. Like, I think that they're kind of miracles of little films that
What's your
exist.
favorite before?
Oh, it's probably Sunset, but I get older and Midnight, I think, has become.
I'm honestly scared to rewatch Midnight. I didn't even
Why?
like it that much the first time I watched it. I don't
Why are
know.
you?
It's probably too real.
It is too real. I think that like
I
that's
didn't
what
watch it again. I should watch that trilogy again. They're good. Sunset
there-
right now for me is like far and away the best of them.
I
But
like. Sunrise. I think it's good, but I think Sunset is incredible. But I think there is the harshness of when you've been with somebody for. There's certain movies, Jay, when you've been with somebody, as you know, for a long time. Those movies hit you harder, and
oh yeah, you just relate to them more.
I relate to that movie a ton. And it was 2013 was, or I think that was 2012, and that was, um, yeah, it was 2012 or 2013, one of those days. Before Midnight came out, and then Boyhood came out, and it was just like kind of back to back.
2013.
Yeah, thank you. And then Boyhood was released the next year, and I was just like, man, Linklater is on this like weird sort of like just very hitting me with very personal films. And I know you don't like, I know you don't like Boyhood, Jay, and that's fine.
I don't
But
care for Boyhood.
I know you don't. It's okay, buddy. I mean,
Ethan Hawke is great in it.
I mean, he's great. I think like I rewatched that film. I think I've claimed that movie more as like that is a movie kind of built for Ryan. It's about a kid whose parents are divorced and they live in South Texas, and I wouldn't say like photography was my thing, but movies started becoming my thing and my escape, and that's what his sort of escape is. I feel like a much more fledged out character than, or have a much better, more interesting life than probably Eller Coltrane. But I related to the music and the time and the vibes, and I saw a lot of the places in Boyhood, and I'm like, those are moments that are in places that I've seen and walked
There's
around.
no room in my heart left for Texas auteurs.
Well, who are your Texas auteurs?
Terry.
Oh, it's just Terry.
There's no space for anybody else.
You can't put anybody else in
that
there.
house is occupied.
Well, Linklater is a good dude.
No, yeah, he seems like a great guy. I like some of his movies.
You're just not. I don't think he's a full fledged like.
Some people ride or die with Linklater.
No, I think he's making good movies. He just makes solid good movies. Like he's a lot like weirdly
He's
he's a
got
lot
one
like
of the weirdest filmographies. He's like
yeah.
Soderbergh.
I was just gonna say he's like Soderbergh, where I'm like
He's just trying stuff.
I'm not gonna say he's my favorite, but I'm gonna say that I think if we didn't have him, I think it would be a total loss. I would be so hurt because like the dude's making so much interesting shit. I mean, like I know you weren't big on it this year, but
I was expecting to adore Hitman.
I know. I was just about to say I love that movie though. Pal's got the goods though, buddy. He does.
And
What do you think?
we have Linklater to thank for that.
Yes, we do. And Robert Rodriguez, in a lot of ways too.
For, Spy Kids?
Yeah,
or Shark Boy and Lava Girl or whatever?
Yeah, Spy Kids 3, baby. What was it? Are you interested in The Running Man?
I have no relation to it.
Did you see the original?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. I've never seen it either. I'm gonna rewatch it, but I don't know. I'm kind of, you know who I am out on though?
Who's that?
I think I'm out on Edgar Wright.
You think you're out on Edgar
I think
Wright?
I think I over
one movie spoiled the whole, one bad apple spoiled the whole bunch.
I don't know. I think I'm kind of like just, do you ever like grow apart from certain filmmakers? Like you're just like, I grew up, like I'm good.
I am sort of with you where I'm like, does Edgar Wright's sensibility work anymore?
Did I mature past those?
Or has he matured past that? And does he have anything? Does he have another move?
Well, I wouldn't say he matures past it because I feel like he's kind of stayed in the same lane.
Well, he tried with Soho.
Last night. There were some interesting things in that, but that movie just doesn't work.
Didn't work. No.
Yeah. And then Baby Drivers.
I like Baby Driver.
It's the most unwatchable movie now.
No, I mean, it is a cursed film.
It is a cursed film.
It's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie and a good idea, but it's like, no one's watching that thing. Like Ansel Elgort, Jamie Foxx, what is it? Spacey. My God. Like,
wait,
no.
Jamie Foxx? What's wrong with Jamie Foxx?
Doesn't Jamie Foxx always like put his foot in his mouth? And we always like every 5 months we always say something. I don't know.
Who was at the Diddy parties? Who knows?
You know he was DJing at the Diddy parties. There's just no way he wasn't. Well, he's got that like cancelable. Doesn't he have like that comedy that he made? That like he directed that like he'll never release because
Oh yeah, yeah,
so many people have said it's probably the most racist thing ever
yeah.
in
The
the
one with like
history.
Robert Downey Jr. in
Junior
it.
playing a Mexican, yeah, and a bunch of stuff like that. Like
Release it. Come on.
and he's like, everyone's like, he's tinkering at it, trying. It was about All Star Weekend. That's what it was
Yeah.
called. And I'm like, he's tinkering, and they're like, he's tinkering away. He doesn't want to like, he's a perfectionist. I'm like, no, he's trying to save his career. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about there, but
Was Baby Driver the last big Kevin Spacey movie?
I mean, are we looking this up on the Three Colors White episode?
I mean, we don't have to, but that feels like the last time I remember him being in a big movie.
So like, I had
I mean,
something.
obviously, all the money in the world, but
Yeah,
he got
but you
kicked
never
out of
saw
that one.
we never saw that one. It is kind of crazy how like for House of Cards, they when you see a promo for it, like when you've got like your Netflix and just pause and they put like all the banners of everything. It is funny like that it's Robin Wright now as the poster of that
Mhm.
show. And what's so funny about that is like, okay, say if you were somebody on Netflix and you saw that House of Cards, sort of thing with Robin White, if you didn't know what House of Cards was about. And you're like, ooh, a Robin Wright show about politics? All right, I'll give it a watch. And you put on the first episode and you realize Kevin Spacey was in it. And he's the lead for 5 out of the 6 seasons.
That is a movie that has just evaporated from, or a show that has evaporated from memory.
But it is the most, and you're correct. Like Baby Driver is like the biggest film outside that. Out of that time period. He has like nothing else.
Yeah.
But
I
also
know what you're about to say. House of Cards may be the most influential work of the last 15 years.
it is the most influential television show in the modern era, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
Because
It
without
kind
it,
of stinks.
because without it, and I'm not saying that as a good or a bad thing, I'm saying because it was 2 movie stars, David Fincher, they made a television show. It was so popular, it essentially created Netflix. And when then Netflix being created, we then got all those movies, but then furthermore, we got every other streaming service that followed after it.
Mhm.
So,
It all looked like that.
and it all looked like that.
It all tried to look like the David Fincher thing because
And
David
it-
Fincher does it well, and a lot of people who
Don't.
try to do the David Fincher thing don't do it very well.
So, I mean,
But House of Cards stinks, right? Always stunk. I think it stinks.
I liked it.
I think it stinks.
I liked it because I like trashy political shows.
Yeah.
So I always thought of it as like an even trashier version. I thought of it as a soap opera set in the White House, which is exactly what it was. I wasn't expecting it to be like even the West Wing, but even the West Wing now is very dated in terms of what all that can be anymore.
I think it kind of stinks.
You think it like stinks like 100%? Was never
Yeah.
interesting, never good?
I don't ever think it was good. No.
Do you
I
think
watched it
Yeah.
for a couple seasons. I just
Well,
don't think
that's
it was ever good.
I think you're being a little harsh. I didn't think it was good.
I'm sorry that
I mean, if
you love Kevin Spacey.
well, I'm sorry, you love Jim Caviezel and Mel Gibson, right? So like, we all have our cross to bear, all right? Let's talk about that. Let's go back to this movie.
Yes, let's do it.
Three Colors
Great
White.
opening shot that ends up really coming around into something very humorous when we have the luggage carousel. We see the suitcase at the beginning of the film, and we have no idea what the context of that is, and that ends up being one of the funniest jokes of the film. When it is eventually revealed that the suitcase that he is being stowed away in an attempt to get back to Poland has been stolen. Very funny.
Very funny stuff.
And that's the thing. He's been in that suitcase for like 4 hours. And that's the thing where it's like, okay, this isn't real life. So how am I supposed to grapple with this story?
I think Zamachowski, I believe is his last name.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you try that one.
Zamachowski as Carol he's kind of great in this movie because
He's great.
from like because there is a language barrier, but then also there is like this. The thing about him is that he's a puppy dog, you know. He's a fish out of water, right? And so
Mhm.
and everything's been taken from him, every penny, every dime, and um, uh, and he's just yeah. At the end of it, he has to get back home. He's in the image of him getting out of that suitcase and them kicking the suitcase and these guys, but you know, I don't know. There's just also something like really, he becomes a monster by the end, right? Through Dominique's own creation. But there is something inherently just sort of like rootable for this sort of schmuck to come out on
He's sort
top.
of
You know what I mean?
inherently likable as a
Yeah.
actor, as a
Yeah. He's
guy.
just got that like sweet
Like
face,
this
you know?
totally average looking, kind of clueless guy who
Yeah.
eventually wises up to the ways of the Western world and then is fully corrupted by them and becomes an absolute monster who is now in love with this other pre-existing monster, which allegorically I understand, but when you kind of extrapolate it beyond that allegory, it gets real messy.
No, I mean, like when he shows up in the Volvo after he's finally got the money and he sold the land and
Oh,
all
that
this
was
stuff and
funny.
turned it
And
into
also a perfect allegorical insertion.
absolutely, because it's just like this sweet guy in the sweaters and you know always like trying to looks like he's manic when he's in Poland and everything. Um, when he look and he's got the hair sleeked back and he's in the suit and he's in the coat that's way too big for him and everything, like everything seems like a size too big. It he doesn't look like he belongs in it, but he sells it completely,
Well, also, you know what
dude.
country Eastern European former Soviet bloc nations have a difficult relationship with? Germany,
Yeah. And
which is where Volvos are made.
so he's like, Volvo? Volvo. Wow. And I just it's just those little details though about him being like this um you know him getting into this power like you're mentioning, Jay, and it is just it fully corrupts him in a very hilarious way. But I am kind of curious about from your perspective the I think that there's a really important beautiful scene in the middle of this film, and that's the sort of the Warsaw Metro tunnel sequence and the execution or a suicide attempt between him um and God, Mikolaja,
Mikolaj?
Mikolaj, yes.
Hmm.
What did you think of that sequence, Jay, and what does that say to then your overall hypothesis?
Yeah, as far as the metaphor is concerned, that's an interesting one. I mean, I love the sequence itself, this idea of this guy who's being asked to commit a violent act on someone's behalf, basically giving them a test run and saying,
Mhm.
"Oh, you want me to kill you? I'm going to fully convince you that I'm killing you and then see if that's actually what you want." And then that idea of him thinking otherwise in that moment is a really just emotionally potent on a literal level, just a really compelling sequence. On that metaphorical level, if you relate it to this idea of impotence that follows Carol around in the film, what is he doing in that sequence? Shooting a blank.
Yeah.
And in the context of the story, in this part, actually, the impotence is bleeding life into his into a hopeless man. So in this case, that impotence is actually a positive, and it's almost like it's not necessarily impotence in and of itself. It's sort of this innate nature of this former Soviet world that in here, in this instance, is so familiar to these men. But when he branches out and tries to go to France, it is unfamiliar and embarrassing and ends up being kind of his cultural downfall. So it definitely extends the metaphor to one degree or another. There are a bunch of different ways that you can think about it, but sort of at first blush, that's how I interpreted it in this
Well,
attempt to fully rationalize this movie in my brain, which I only could by viewing it through this geopolitical lens.
well, then also that too, isn't it just like a little bit of the sort of acceptance of a friend or of someone that gave him a chance of acceptance of being able to go to such extremes
Hmm.
as death or execution or then even becoming powerful and screwing over a woman that you formerly loved or potentially screwing
Hmm.
over in terms of the metaphor of a country being able to put the knife into another, to be able to do such an act and not think about it the next day and know that there's no remorse. If you can do that to somebody that you love or someone that's been kind to you, you can do that to someone that's hurt you. And I think that that is an interesting thing that the movie tries to present there as well. Is just like, I'm giving you every excuse to do this. I'm giving you the chance to end my life. But what's cruel is yes, firing the blank, because then it proves that they can do it. It proves then that that other person doesn't want it. And it proves then that, well, then who has power here? Who has the ability to have control? And
That
then
is
by
true.
the
It is about control and over others. You're right.
and then by the end of it, it's that okay, if I can do that to somebody that showed me complete kindness at my lowest point, then I can do the things to set out in motion for his plot of revenge and do it in a way where he won't feel as much remorse. If anything, he can feel as if this is what she finally wants, this is what she's going to get. And I'm not going to feel bad if it, if she rejects her or not, because this is what she deserves. Or if she realizes, like at the end, I want to marry you again because this is kind of twisted and hot, then he's just like, I had to go through all that just to get to this. That's even just as sad as that. So it's fascinating how that little decision is personal. In order for then for even the smaller or the larger relationship, um, and its dynamics. I think it's a brilliant scene that kind of propels the second act of the film and all of
And
its.
what is a better sort of exemplification of a Cold War than shooting a warning shot, basically, right?
Yeah,
So it is sort of a reintroduction of that idea where it's not so much about violence itself, it's about the threat of violence and the control that you can have over somebody else
yeah.
just by threatening violence rather than actually going through with it.
No, I think it's brilliant, um, and then also it then makes us think about Carol in a different way at that point. It's just like, okay, we've rooted for this guy to get up to this point now. And when do we root for him? Do you feel as if like he's justifiable in his actions by the end?
No, he's a lunatic.
Exactly. So therefore you start to reevaluate then this hero's journey in a way. Like, should we have been rooting for this at all? And I think that it goes back to it's like, well, you can't root for them as an individual. And if it's on like as you're saying, a geopolitical sort of tension, it's dangerous to root for any sort of political system or country, right, Jay, to ever have because those things become very if someone's screwed over, then it becomes even larger of a systemic problem or issue for all those involved or around it. So it almost in a way too feels for me as you were talking about it, it's also like the responsibility of rooting for him. You shouldn't, because none of
No, there's
this
nobody. I mean, I guess
there's
the only
no
guy to
good
root for is
person.
maybe his brother,
Maybe
the
so.
hairdresser brother, is a
Seems like
nice
a good
guy.
dude.
Yeah.
Like, but what isn't it funny though that like he makes this giant deal, the money to turn his life around, and he's like, yeah, I'll do the hair, and he just sits back and he looks like he's sitting on top of a cloud.
Yeah.
And I think that it's such a great shot, such a realization that the money hasn't gone through, the deal's just been struck and everything. He's still technically low, but he's already just like, yeah, sure, that haircut, not a big deal anymore because like I'm gonna be richer than anybody I've ever seen before. And then he sort of ropes his friend into them as a business partner, even though
You're
I
a
don't
joint
think,
owner, by the way.
yeah, you're a joint owner because I use the 30% of that money is like 30%. And he kind of was like, his realization of being like, do I want to be in business with you? Like, I helped you, but you don't look like the person that I helped.
Hmm.
I mean, and there is that hesitation
Yeah.
that you see there. And I think it's brilliantly just kind of conveyed on his face. He's just like, are you Carol anymore?
And that is this idea of this nation all of a sudden being allowed to do things that they weren't necessarily allowed to do before, but are they really the right things? And are they striving for something that is on its face very desirable, truly Delpy, but have these dark undertones to them where they will either devour you as they did to Carol before, or if you try to devour them, you only kind of become the evil that they represent, which is what ends up happening in this movie where the Carol and Dominique end up having this mutual respect and thus mutual love that is implied at the end of the movie. It's a pretty harrowing movie, really. Like it is truly an anti-comedy because the implications of what's going on in the film are very dark and very dire. But there are some moments that are truly very funny. The moment where he looks over at a landfill and is just like, "Oh, it's so great to finally be home," while he's just staring over a dump is so funny. It's a yeah, a lot going on with this movie. A lot more than it, this was so not what I was expecting it to be, which I've said a dozen times now. But I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't this dark post Cold War comedy.
Yeah. No, I mean I hadn't seen it since college. It's the first time I'm watching it since college. And I think when I was younger, it's like 10 years, 10-ish or so years ago. I kind of just took it on the surface of what it is, which is it. I mean, you can, Jay, if you want to, just take it as a surface level sort of fucked up comedy. You know what I mean? If you want to
I
do that.
cannot
No, I think you could. Like
pretzel my brain into making
if you're
this make sense on
no, if
any
you're
sort of literal level.
no, I think if you're younger, you know what I mean, you could probably just get away with it like I did. But I think as in connection with Blue and watching this film and there's more from Kieślowski's mind at what he's trying to do here and talking more political, and then I think being sort of, condemning a little bit on on the on the French in this film. Because this is about equality, right?
Yes, this is speaking to the tenet of equality,
Which
theoretically.
which is the most I gotta say, the the way in which we've talked about it and the way in which the movie describes, or plays out, the equality from both of these countries is to be the lowest form of human being on the planet.
Yeah, it's the
Just
equal
equal.
rights to
Power equal
exploit other people. Yeah.
exactly. Power equals being exploitative. And within that finds what? Mutual respect. And that's a dangerous thing to really like, to quote unquote, you can call it a comedy or you can call it a romance because it's between two. But it's for lack of a better word, it's a fucked up relationship, which is a lot of what, if you want to take it just on, again, on a geopolitical level, a lot of it is we make deals that are so vastly morally irresponsible or don't make a lot of sense, but we make them so we can become powerful and then hold leverage over others. And by the end of the film, I think, yeah, he's corrupted. He's finally realizing that, and she's turned on. And ain't that the truth? Which is wild, and it's funny, and you kind of just laugh about it. You know what I mean? Because there's only one way you can do, which is laugh, because it's like it's sick and but it's funny. You know what I mean? That's at least how I interpret it. So I picked up on a lot of what you were saying on this, and it's like an 88-minute movie, so like you shouldn't be picking up as much here as you would in like bigger, longer text. But I don't know, there's just something he doesn't just lay down simplicity. And I think over time, I've
Yeah, but you
realized
could.
how layered his films are, and that's what I think is so approachable about his work.
It is very layered for sure, but if you want to look at this on that most literal level, what is this movie about? The fact that the most powerful things in the world are money and sex. That is it. That rules
Yeah,
everything. That is the entire driver of everything in this movie. And so just on a carnal level, it captures that as well as these really specific geopolitical details. And again, I am far from an expert when it comes to Cold War politics, but
you
even
sure?
I'm hand up, not a Cold War expert, but
Wait, so you never watched Cold War, the Pavel Pawlikowski film,
I
either?
watched that.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't say I'm an expert though. Quite
Well,
liked it.
quite liked it. Okay. Do I need to get you a book then for Christmas? Cold War book?
Yeah, give me some Cold War lit. That'd be that's what I want.
That's what you want? You'll be sitting. It'll be like whatever film series we have. Oh, I need some light reading. Ryan gave me this Cold War book for Christmas.
Love to read up on the Cold War.
Sure, Bill O'Reilly's got like a Cold War book for you or something that I can
Ah,
get you.
already read it.
Oh well, we'll see. Then you're well versed. You don't need to.
That's
You
why
don't,
it wasn't very insightful.
oh well, well, O'Reilly's your guy. I don't know what's going on
Oh my
there.
God. I need to pivot. I need to pivot the bit.
Any final things you want to say about this film, buddy?
Um, no, I mean, it's such an interesting movie because I truly cannot even attempt to rationalize this thing as a traditional work. It's such a weird piece of art because I don't feel like you can come into it
I've
blind
never
and
heard you
understand it
this
whatsoever.
gobsmacked by a movie before.
I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't something this fully allegorical because I truly cannot, outside of the context of European politics, this movie is absolutely nonsensical to me. Like no
Okay.
one behaves like a human being. Um, time is not dealt with in any sort of realistic way. It's fascinating. Um, and because of that, it's like I think it's less successful, but also more interesting, maybe than Blue.
Mm.
Um, and Julie Delpy is pretty. That is my final thought.
What's your final thought?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good final thought. Um, Final thought. I just think that I just think it's super complex, and I love that little comb and how he's making music, and um, I love how he meets Miguel Age. He's like, oh yeah, he's playing the one song and then he changes it up. Oh, I know, yeah, and then he's like, no, not that song. I hate that song. And but then I love him coming back again. That shot at the end of towards the end of the film where he's playing with it and almost like his toy. It's his villain origin story,
Mhm.
and it's kind of great. Like it just yeah, I once thought that this movie was just a comedy, and now I think that's the great thing about movies and seeing them years later. And we talked about this with Malik, and we talked about this in the series past about just coming back to movies over years and how different they feel for you over time. And this is definitely one of those, buddy. And I'm really glad we got to talk about it. And it's just as emotionally rich of a text as Blue. Um, I think that the performances I mean, they don't hit, I think,
White
that film.
Binoche.
No, I don't think so in terms of that. But for
It's a
what
high
they're asked
bar.
to do here, I think it's really interesting. And I think that this shows off him more. And I think the direction of that, it is interesting, like the wedding sequence, with his opening eye perspective, we
Mhm.
multiple times, but we see that wedding as joyous through Carol's eyes. And by the time we see it again later in the film, it's the reality There was a hint of regret, or a
Yeah, I
hint,
got to do some reading up on this one.
or there was a hint of just like, um, of her realizing who she just married. Before then, you see the smile, and there's the signs, and you kind of refuse to see the signs of trouble if you are all in
Kieślowski
the
loves an interpretation of a smile.
exactly, and and I think that that's what blinds Carol, and then by the end, he's not blind anymore. He has seen,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of that, there's this again one of just the great sort of last shots of seeing him cry and just fully 100% broken. I think it's great, and so it's a good movie, very good movie.
It is.
Jay, before we get out of here,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to test your award season knowledge based on the film we just reviewed, Three Colors White, in a segment we like to call It's an Honor to Get Nominated. Jay, come down that road again, my friend. We're going to talk about if this movie had gotten any awards attention. Did Three Colors White get nominated for any Oscars, Jay?
I believe White is the least celebrated, acclaimed, and sort of generally lowest regarded of the trilogy. I do not think this got any Oscar play. I think it was the other one that got some Oscars.
You would be correct, sir.
Okay.
All right. It came, though, it did come out and released in the same year as Red. So,
yes, 1994.
1994, a year we are literally preparing for next week on the main show podcast to talk about. So you're getting in your 1994s right at the right
this
time.
This is some
buddy.
double prep.
This is double prep. It was the Poland submission for the Academy Award and the Best International Feature Film category, but it did not make the cut, unfortunately. So
this was the Polish submission.
yes.
Was Red another country submission?
That is correct.
Whoa.
I believe
look into that.
I believe I can double check and make sure.
I guess that was France.
Or maybe
it was a co-production.
I think so. Yes, it would. No. Oh, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, we're this far.
Okay. So Three Colors Red was a Swiss entry. Because Switzerland also financed these movies. So Switzerland.
Who gets to claim it?
The films that sort of financed it.
But what if it's a co-production?
Well, I guess it's up to those three countries if they want to, who wants to select it.
How do you, is it whoever like won the last war between the three of them?
Yeah, they do like how like in college football, they have tiebreakers.
Yeah.
So they kind of do that. They just flip a coin.
The prime ministers do duels.
Well, it also just depends on the films that have been submitted from the other countries and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's just interesting that one country got one and another country got the other one, and then the other one was more successful.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
So, would you 1990?
And then White, to be fair, White does feel very Polish.
Yes. And we're going to watch Red next week, so we'll see if that's very, Swiss. I mean,
very neutral.
Very neutral. Yeah, it's a very neutral film. This is the year we're going to talk about this back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
So, hope you're ready for that. So I don't want you to look into this too much.
Okay.
Hopefully you're not looking into it. I'm just going to look into this for you right now.
Okay.
Which is Best Picture. This is you got your Forrest Gump winning Best Picture. Four Weddings and a Funeral, Pulp Fiction, Quiz Show, The Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Good year? You've been doing the research already. Is it a good year of film?
It's an okay.
Interesting.
It's a pretty decent year for film and a pretty decent-ish. That Best Picture lineup's okay.
Okay.
Right? I mean, Forrest Gump won, which is a problem.
It's the worst film of the four. Or of the five, I mean.
Yeah.
I like Four Weddings. It's fine.
Actually, Four Weddings is whatever.
I think it's
That's
better than
crazy
four.
that got nominated for Best Picture.
It's not. It was like sort of like the indie film. It was. I mean, it's before Richard Curtis did like Love Actually and Notting Hill and
It
all
feels
those
like the
movies. So
ninth movie in a 10 film lineup, not the fifth in a five.
but it got in
I know.
because it was a giant hit.
It was. That movie's fun.
The movie was made on a $3 million budget, which would be or it was made on a $4.4 million budget, and it grossed $246 million at the box office.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was a giant hit.
Yeah, it was.
And then Gump was made on a $55 million budget, and it made $678 million.
That is so much money.
Pulp Fiction, that was made on a $8 million budget, and that made $214 million.
Man, I didn't realize it made that much money.
That's a lot of money.
Wow.
That's a lot of quiche.
Yep.
Quiz Show was $31 million budget, made $52 million. Not great.
Man, quiz show expensive.
Very expensive for just, being a show about a quiz. And then Shawshank was made on a $25 million budget, made $74 million.
People do not remember that wasn't a success immediately.
No, but it now has become the most
It's
one of the most
greatest
celebrated
movie
movie
of all time.
Like, we can't even argue it.
Number one highest rated
Is
best
it
movie.
still IMDb's number one film of all time?
I would be surprised if it wasn't.
Um,
I like that movie. You don't like that movie.
what, Shawshank?
Or do I like it more than you do?
I like Shawshank.
Okay. I thought you didn't like it very much.
No, it's Gump I don't like.
Thought it
I
was
don't
both.
like Gump. I love Shawshank.
Okay.
I love Quiz Show.
I like Quiz Show.
And I love Pulp.
Love Pulp.
Pulp's good.
Just
You like you like some Pulp, not all Pulp.
Only
Two
if it's
Pulps?
fake.
Two Pulps?
Young Pulps.
Yeah. Young Pulps. Okay. Would you have thrown White in there?
I mean, I like it more than Gump and Four Weddings.
Would you have thrown Carol into the lineup?
Probably not.
No. That was Hanks, one for Gump. Morgan Freeman, Shawshank Redemption. Nathaniel Hawthorne, The Madness of King George. Paul Newman, Nobody's Fool. Good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Travolta for Pulp Fiction.
Two of those I have yet to see, and the other three I like more. So I will.
Is Travolta the lead of Pulp Fiction?
No.
It's an ensemble, right?
Yeah, I would probably say there isn't a lead.
If anybody's a lead, it weirdly feels like it's Bruce Willis.
He is the
He's got
driving force of the movie.
He's got a lot of time.
His parts of the movie are also the least
Long.
interesting,
Really?
in my opinion.
I think the stuff,
Everything with his girlfriend is
the girlfriend stuff and the cab driver, I can
objectively
get out of
the
there.
worst stuff in the movie.
But I do think that the stuff when he leaves her and then like the watch and the
oh yeah. I mean that
stuff's interesting. And is Morgan Freeman the lead of Shawshank?
I'll give him co-leads.
I think Tim Robbins is.
I'll give him co-leads. I'm willing to go co-lead. But if there is a lead, it is Robbins.
Robbins is great in that.
But I can give him co-leads.
I love Tim Robbins.
Yeah, Robbins is great. Yeah, he's very tall.
Good. Very tall. Would you put Delpy in supporting actress?
Nah, too small a part.
Too small?
They honestly don't give her enough meat on the bone.
Would you nominate this in any other category?
Honestly, screenplay is a possibility, just again because of how non-traditional and allegorical the story is.
Okay.
Cinematography of this one didn't blow me away in the same way that Blue did. The editing I think is clever, but nothing crazy. I'm sure you could probably talk me into liking the editing of this movie more than some of the others that were nominated, but
best editing was Forrest Gump was the winner.
Well, this has better editing than Forrest Gump.
Speed.
Oh, that's a fun nom. It's a good nom.
Shawshank.
Yep.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, definitely.
Hoop Dreams.
Oh, cool nom.
Yeah.
That didn't even get a documentary nomination, did it?
Let me double check and make sure, but I think you're absolutely right that it did not It did not.
What a stupid thing to have done.
It's weird it's weird when stuff like that happens all the time. It was such a big year for Gump. Everybody had Gump fever.
Oh man. Gump, man.
Didn't you know that they have like a book for Gump, and then they were
Gump 2?
Yeah.
Still gumping?
Yeah. I kind of feel like Here is the next. It's their attempt at Gump 2. There's a lot of Gump qualities to Here.
Well, that sounds
terrifying.
interesting.
It's bad. Jay, that movie's bad. Here's bad. But what's so crazy about Here, not to get on a soapbox about this, but I've noticed that a lot of male white critics giving it a lot of like 5 stars.
Well, I got to check this thing out.
And I'm just like, where's Jay's opinion
what
on
am
it?
what am I doing?
You're like the leader of that group, baby. What are you doing? And so, but yeah, it was like this wave of negatives, and then just 1 5-star would trickle in at a time on Letterboxd, and I was just like, what is happening? Is everybody okay? Like, do we like forget that this is bad when it's not good? And
I gotta check it out.
Truly,
look,
one of
it
the worst
looks
things
like Robert Zemeckis' Tree of Life, which sounds absolutely terrible. But also, you know what I like?
you like the Tree of Life.
Tree of Life and
Some
Robert Zemeckis movies. And I think he's still doing interesting stuff, even when his stuff is absolute garbage.
I wonder what Clint Eastwood's Tree of Life would be.
He does not think that way.
No?
No. He is far too...
Do you think he'll make The Mule too?
I don't think Clint Eastwood has ever had a dream.
Really?
I don't think he's ever... I think his dreams are like... Night at the DMV was long.
Clint, what did you dream about last night?
Played baseball.
Played the piano. Oh, this is such a stupid show. We really do the stupidest show on the planet. Jay,
Mm-hmm.
can you tell everybody where they can find you and all your
What
work?
is the most non-literal movie
Clint Eastwood's ever made?
Clint Eastwood has ever made? Yeah.
Changeling? No, not Changeling. What's the one? Hereafter?
Oh my God, I forgot about that movie. All right, maybe he does have a little bit of Tree of Life in him.
He's got a little bit of it. That's kind of like Matt Damon using mystical powers, buddy.
Yep.
But
see, that's as far as he can possibly go.
There's got to be like a gimmick to it. Yeah.
And it's not even that elaborate. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. That makes sense.
I saw Tsunami last week.
That is Clint Eastwood's Tree of Life is Hereafter. That's as far as he can go.
You think he'd take a cabinet position? Sorry. was that a cursed thought? I'm sorry. It couldn't be any worse than half the other fuckers.
What do you
that
think he would be best suited for?
I don't know. Probably Secretary of State. I'll go to country to country.
Things are going great.
Things are going great. What do you think he would be? Oh, agriculture. He'd be into that.
He'd be good at that.
He would be good at the agriculture. I've seen Bridges.
I think he should be the press secretary.
Oh, shit. Damn. Yeah. What we're going to see here today. And
why don't you shut the hell up?
That's fake news, asshole. All right. Jay, where can we find you and all your work on the internet? Recommendation of the week. Nothing Clint Eastwood related.
Yeah. J Ledbetter on Letterboxd, at Mr. J Ledbetter on Twitter. Movie recommendation of the week. Been doing some 2024 catch up. I watched the film My Old Ass. Thought it was quite good.
Are you talking about me?
Aubrey Plaza. Not you, Clint.
My old ass.
Get back to work, Clint. You got
in a Gran Torino.
You got memos to write, Clint.
Yeah. I want you to all shut the hell up at this press conference.
But My Old Ass is a very touching movie. I thought there were a couple monologues in it that I were related to things that I'd actually been thinking about recently, just independently of anything else, and how raising a child that presents these really weird kind of inflection points and moments that you only later realize you'll never get back, and things like that that I thought this movie captured really well. And it's funny and heartfelt, and it's short and it's sweet, and it's kind of everything you want out of a little indie coming of age dramedy. So check out My Old Ass. I was very it was a nice little surprise. I wasn't expecting it to like it as much as I did.
I've
It's on
heard
Amazon.
I've heard people really like it, and it's been in my screener pile for a while. And I need to just sit down and watch.
Check it out. It's like
My
under
Old
140.
Ass. Oh, it's like under 140?
Yeah, it's like an hour 38, my man.
I could do that, buddy.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? My well, first of all, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. You can find out my work at awardswatch.com. If you like podcasts, we have the main show coming up this weekend, 1994 retrospective. Please go ahead and listen to that. 5 stars on iTunes and Spotify, and reviews over there. We greatly appreciate them. While you're over there, please sign up for the newsletter on the website. It's the best place to get all the news, reviews, interviews, and everything during award season all in one place. Movie recommendation. Oh, it's really tough. I've seen a lot of movies that we talked about in recent episodes of stuff. There's not talked about Gladiator last week. We talked about Wicked, and you should not all go see that. Jay, help me out. Something. You know what I will say? Okay, I'll give a recommendation. Saw this movie a couple weeks back. I thought it was a really interesting film, containing a really great performance. So I saw Heretic a couple weeks ago.
Well, speaking of old Hugh.
Oh, Hugh.
Floppy haired Hugh.
Puffy hair, yeah, because of Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Mhm.
Hugh Grant, starring. It's about these two young Mormon missionaries that they go to this guy's house, try to speak to him about the religion, lets him in, and then it becomes a religious debate, and a little bit of some horror stuff starts happening. So,
Wow.
creepy movie.
Because of Jar Jar Binks impression.
It's incredible. That I gotta tell you, I wasn't gonna say anything about it, but if you want to bring it up,
I'm so mad I know about that before I've seen the movie.
I gotta tell you, it's great, and it's one of my favorite moments of 2024. Period.
The man has clearly never heard Jar Jar Binks speak.
No, but that's what makes it so great, because it's a bad impression. I think Grant's incredible in the film. He is becoming one of the most consistent character actors we have working today, period, Jay. And I just love what he's doing right now, just making these really interesting roles. I mean, obviously everybody knows about Paddington 2 a couple years ago. My supporting actor winner for 2020 for The Gentleman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you did that, you maniac.
And maybe he'd be on a ballot this year if he's in supporting, if you can count him in that. I think he's really good. And he's having a lot of fun. And I think the movie kind of falls apart in the second act a little bit. But the first act is good stuff. Really good stuff. There is a point when this movie stops becoming as interesting as its first half. And I think the setup for that is really, really interesting. Scott Beck and Brian Woods are the directors of this film. They are the guys that did Jay's favorite movie of all time, 65, the Adam Driver space movie.
Man.
You remember that movie, Jay?
That is a movie I watched.
And it's a movie you'll never talk about again unless I brought up those guys again.
Nope.
But I do think that there's a lot of interesting things and a lot of stuff to be said in that film. I just wish that it was the ending was better executed, but I think it contains a great performance from Hugh Grant in it, and Chloe East, who many will know as Sammy Fableman's girlfriend in the
Oh,
yeah, in the
she was
Fablemans.
amazing in that.
She's amazing in it, and I think that her and Sophie Thatcher are really good in the film. But I mean, you're really going to see Grant just monologue the shit out of things throughout that movie, and he's great in it. So, Heretic, recommend everybody go out there and see it if you can. If not, then it'll be on VOD soon. I think you dig it just for Grant.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna watch it.
Yeah. Next week we'll be back to conclude our Kieślowski movie series. We're going to be talking about Three Colors Red.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe it's already over, right, buddy? Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.